Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Wednesday, July 9, 2025. As we do every Wednesday, we're exploring a major global event that shaped the course of world history. Today, we turn our attention to the Partition of India in 1947, one of the largest forced migrations in human history that divided the Indian subcontinent into two independent nations, India and Pakistan. This dramatic event marked the end of British colonial rule but created unprecedented communal violence and displacement that affected millions of people. What makes the partition particularly significant is how it demonstrated both the possibilities and perils of decolonization. While it achieved the goal of independence from British rule, the hasty and poorly planned division created lasting conflicts and humanitarian disasters that continue to influence South Asian politics today. So let's explore this pivotal moment in world history, examining the colonial background that led to partition, the key figures who shaped the process, the tragic events of 1947, and the lasting consequences for India, Pakistan, and the broader world. To understand the partition, we must first examine the colonial context that created the conditions for division. The British East India Company had gradually conquered much of the Indian subcontinent over 2 centuries, establishing direct rule after the Indian Rebellion of 1857. British colonial policy often exploited religious and communal differences to maintain control through divide and rule tactics. While Hindus formed the majority of the population, Muslims constituted a substantial minority of about 25%, along with Sikhs, Christians, and other religious communities that had coexisted for centuries. The Indian independence movement, led by figures like Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru through the Indian National Congress, initially emphasized unity among all Indians regardless of religion. However, concerns among some Muslims about potential Hindu dominance in an independent India led to the formation of the Muslim League in 1906. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, initially a member of Congress who advocated Hindu-Muslim unity, gradually became convinced that Muslims needed separate political representation. By the 1940s, he was demanding the creation of Pakistan as a separate homeland for Muslims, arguing that Hindus and Muslims constituted two nations that could not coexist peacefully. World War II accelerated the independence process. Britain's weakened position after the war made maintaining the expensive Indian Empire increasingly difficult. The Congress Party's refusal to support the war effort without independence promises, combined with growing nationalist pressure, convinced Britain that decolonization was inevitable. The Labour government elected in 1945 under Clement Attlee was more sympathetic to Indian independence than previous Conservative governments. However, the question remained whether independence would result in a united India or partition into separate Hindu and Muslim states. Lord Louis Mountbatten was appointed as the last Viceroy of India in March 1947 with the mandate to transfer power by June 1948. However, increasing communal violence and political deadlock convinced Mountbatten that partition was unavoidable and that the timeline needed to be accelerated. The decision to advance independence to August 1947 was made to prevent further deterioration of the situation, but this haste proved catastrophic. The border demarcation was left to a British lawyer, Cyril Radcliffe, who had never been to India and completed his work in just 5 weeks. The Radcliffe Line, as the border became known, divided Punjab and Bengal provinces, cutting through communities, families, and economic networks that had existed for generations. The arbitrary nature of these boundaries created numerous problems and disputes that persist today. August 14 and 15, 1947, marked the birth of Pakistan and India respectively. While the moment represented the triumph of independence movements, it was overshadowed by the massive population exchanges and violence that followed partition. Approximately 14 million people were displaced in the largest forced migration in human history. Hindus and Sikhs in areas designated for Pakistan fled to India, while Muslims in areas designated for India moved to Pakistan. This movement occurred largely without government planning or protection. The violence that accompanied partition was horrific and widespread. Communal riots erupted across Punjab, Bengal, and other border regions, with estimates of death tolls ranging from 200,000 to 2 million people. Women faced particular brutality, with mass rape and abduction used as weapons of communal warfare. The refugee crisis overwhelmed both new governments. Massive camps housed displaced persons in terrible conditions, while governments struggled to provide basic necessities. Many refugees lost everything they owned and faced years of hardship in their new countries. Gandhi, who had opposed partition, undertook fasts and worked tirelessly to stop the violence and promote peace between communities. His efforts helped calm tensions in some areas, but he was assassinated by a Hindu extremist in January 1948, partly due to his advocacy for Muslim rights in India. The integration of the princely states created additional complications. Over 500 semi-autonomous states had to choose between India and Pakistan, with some rulers making decisions that contradicted their population's religious majorities. Kashmir's Hindu ruler chose India despite its Muslim majority, creating a dispute that continues today. The economic consequences of partition were severe. The division disrupted established trade networks, separated raw materials from processing centers, and created new international borders where none had existed. Both countries faced immediate economic challenges in rebuilding their economies. Pakistan faced particular difficulties as it inherited less developed infrastructure and industry. The country was also geographically divided, with East Pakistan, later Bangladesh, separated from West Pakistan by over 1,000 miles of Indian territory, creating governance and military challenges. The immediate aftermath saw 3 wars between India and Pakistan over Kashmir, in 1947, 1965, and 1971. The 1971 war resulted in the creation of Bangladesh when East Pakistan seceded with Indian support, demonstrating the artificial nature of the original partition boundaries. The partition also had significant international implications. The creation of Pakistan as an Islamic state and India as a secular democracy created different models for post-colonial development. During the Cold War, Pakistan generally aligned with the United States while India pursued non-alignment. The nuclear dimension emerged in 1998 when both countries conducted nuclear tests, making South Asia one of the world's most dangerous nuclear flashpoints. The Kashmir dispute, combined with nuclear weapons, has created persistent regional instability. Partition's legacy continues to influence contemporary politics in both countries. Political parties in both nations sometimes exploit communal tensions for electoral gain, while the trauma of 1947 is passed down through generations and influences communal relations. The creation of Pakistan as an Islamic state raised questions about the rights of religious minorities and the nature of democracy in religiously defined nations. These issues became more acute with the rise of Islamic fundamentalism in later decades. India's experience as a secular democracy with a large Muslim minority provided a different model, though communal tensions have periodically erupted into violence. The treatment of minorities in both countries remains a contentious issue affecting bilateral relations. The partition also influenced other decolonization processes worldwide. The violence and displacement in South Asia served as a warning about the dangers of hasty decolonization, though similar problems occurred in other regions like Palestine and Africa. Economic integration between India and Pakistan has remained limited due to political tensions, representing a lost opportunity for regional development. Trade between the two countries is far below its potential, with political considerations often overriding economic logic. The human stories of partition remain deeply moving and traumatic. Millions of families were separated, with many never reuniting. The literature, films, and oral histories of partition continue to explore themes of loss, identity, and belonging that resonate across generations. Efforts at reconciliation have occurred periodically, with peace initiatives, cultural exchanges, and people-to-people contacts attempting to bridge the divides created in 1947. However, political conflicts and security concerns have often undermined these efforts. The partition also created diaspora communities worldwide, with people of South Asian origin carrying the memories and identities formed by 1947. These communities often maintain connections to both countries while developing new identities in their adopted homes. Modern scholarship has increasingly examined partition from multiple perspectives, including those of women, lower castes, and regional communities whose experiences were often overlooked in nationalist narratives dominated by elite male leaders. The role of British policies in creating conditions for partition remains controversial. While some argue that communal differences made partition inevitable, others contend that colonial divide and rule policies artificially exacerbated religious tensions for political control. Contemporary challenges in both countries, including terrorism, economic development, and democratic governance, are often traced back to the circumstances of partition in the immediate post-independence period. The unresolved issues of 1947 continue to influence regional politics. The Partition of India stands as one of the 20th century's most significant decolonization events, demonstrating both the human costs of poorly managed political transitions and the enduring consequences of colonial legacies. While achieving the goal of independence, partition created new forms of conflict and division that continued to shape South Asian politics. The tragedy of 1947 offers important lessons about the challenges of managing ethnic and religious diversity in democratic societies, the importance of careful planning in political transitions, and the human costs of political decisions made by leaders often insulated from their consequences. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of the Partition of India. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our Cultural Insights episode examining the Silk Road and its role as a conduit for trade, culture, and ideas between East and West. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. What aspects of the partition's legacy do you find most relevant to understanding contemporary conflicts and migration crises? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.